All right, welcome to Chasing Midnight, where the couch is comfy, the tea is piping, and no topic is off limits.
We're your hosts, Madison,
And Isabel.
and we want to invite you to hang with us to chat from true crimes and paranormal to girl talk, bad advice, and everything you didn't know you needed to hear.
We got you, so get comfortable, grab a snack, and let's just get into it. All right, so today we will be talking about true crime cases. Matter of fact, the ones that are lesser known are ones that have not gained a lot of notoriety over the years or haven't been spoken about over the years.
Yep, and we do not know each other's cases yet. The only thing we know is the title, so we knew that we weren't doing the same one. We both separately looked up everything, and it took quite a bit of time of research.
Oh, we spent I want to say
Hours.
like no, this was like 2 days for
Yeah,
us to
actually,
get
this one was.
everything that we needed to.
Yeah.
Um, so all reactions are genuine. We're here. We're honest. It is what it is. So we'll go ahead and jump on into it.
I'm ready.
Well, where did little Bobby go? Everyone like to know. And they all start searching out for loose stuff. And along lakes the way the show.
I didn't know we were coming prepared with music.
Okay, listen.
What is
This
happening?
is a whole production. So back in the day when something made like big headlines, chances were that it would end up in a song. So what you just heard was a clip from Mystery of the Dunbar's Child by Richard Brown. And it is inspired by the case that took the world by storm for 2 years before disappearing from headlines completely. And that is the case that I will be telling you about today. I can't play the whole song, just for copyright reasons. I'm not
Yes.
trying to get sued today by old Richard Brown. But you can find it on YouTube for the curious ones of you out there. It is pretty unnerving, honestly. It just tells the entire story in a 3-minute song.
Oh, I'm so nervous now.
So, on May 23rd, 1908, Percy and Leslie Dunbar welcomed their baby boy, Bobby, to the world, only to have another little boy, Alonzo, 2 years later. The family was well off, as Percy was in real estate and considered a prominent local businessman. So they lived pretty happily and
Yeah.
freely in Opelousas, Louisiana, for the next 4 years until they decided to take a family camping trip.
I'm scared now.
Let's flash forward to August 23rd, 1912. So this is 4 years later, when Percy and Leslie took 2-year-old Alonzo and 4-year-old Bobby to Swayze Lake in a nearby Louisiana town. They'd set up tents to camp out for the week, though they wouldn't be able to anticipate what would come.
Oh no. You're making it making me more anxious as you keep going.
Yeah, I'm glad. So the very first night of their trip, as the family was sleeping soundly. Now this is one of those I was not able to get a clear answer on.
Okay.
In some reports, the family was sleeping, and in some, they were busy fishing. It was during the day.
Okay.
Regardless, there was nobody watching little Bobby,
Oh.
and he wandered from the tent, never to be seen again. The following morning, once the disappearance was noticed, Percy, the dad, found a distraught Leslie screaming. So the couple quickly notified the police, and search parties were almost immediately dispatched into the woods surrounding the lake.
Good.
Bobby's tracks were followed to the bankside, leaving the investigators to assume that he had fallen in the swamp and drowned. So,
Oh.
when you imagine Swayze Lake,
Yeah.
keep in mind this is Louisiana.
Yes.
It is marshy swamp area.
Yeah.
There's
Brown.
crocodiles. It is.
Straight brown.
It's not like a crystal clear little
No.
blue lake fun to swim in. So the party did a sweep of the crocodile infested marsh, though nobody was ever discovered. So the following day, Bobby's hat was discovered a good distance from the lake, which led people to wonder whether it had been a kidnapping instead.
Oh.
So Percy Dunbar refused to give up, stating that he knew his son was still alive. So authorities issued a $6,000 reward for anybody who could provide any information on his disappearance, which today would be about $160,000.
Yeah.
Just for information. Though 8 months passed with no further leads, no
Oh.
information given, nothing. 8 months later, we're at April 13th, 1913. William Cantwell Walters was arrested in Mississippi when accompanied by a young boy of the same age and general appearance as missing Bobby Dunbar.
Oh.
Despite the uncanny resemblance, and I'll post pictures whenever we get around to putting this up on our social media,
Yeah.
they they look alike. They really do. Their little sweet faces. There's not much of a
So
difference.
what you're saying is right now it's a look-alike. Oh.
So, despite the uncanny resemblance, William claimed that the boy's name was Bruce Anderson, the son of his parents' caretaker, Julia, whom he'd had permission to take on the road with him for a few days. So, you've got William, and he's
Yeah.
got his elder parents. Julia takes care of the elder parents. This is Julia's son,
Yeah.
little baby boy. William was a handyman and a piano tuner, and Bruce's mom, Julia, had to leave town for a few days to take care of her own family. So she gave permission for Bruce to travel with William instead, given that he wanted to.
Yeah.
Being close friends with the family, the 4-year-old agreed. Being suspicious of that story, the Dunbars hopped a train from Louisiana to Mississippi to identify the boy with the help of the local police. They arrived during the night and surveyed him as he slept, and this is where things get a little iffy on the recounts.
Okay. I'm ready.
Once again, I could not find a definite answer on the next part. I did find actual news articles, and I found newspaper clippings. So one article from the Times says that the mother, Leslie, faints. The headline reads, "Mother faints, sight of kidnapped child." Then goes on to say, when the mother reached the house where the boy was being kept, he was asleep. Mrs. Dunbar made a careful examination of the lad without awakening him, and was standing over the bed a few hours later when the child opened his eyes. The boy recognized his mother instantly. "Mother!" he cried as he reached up to her. The mother convulsively embraced the boy, and then she fainted.
Okay.
However, a second article from the exact same time has the headline, "Mrs. Dunbar not positive lad is her missing boy." And it states, when they reached the home, the child was asleep at the time. When awakened, he began to cry. So Mrs. Dunbar looked in the dim light of a smoky oil lamp and then fell back with a gasp. "I do not know. I am not quite sure," said Mrs. Dunbar. So it is later documented that both Percy and Leslie told the papers that the boy didn't look like their son,
Yeah.
that his eyes were just too small. But the next day, and get this, the next day, they returned to where the boy was being kept. And Leslie, the mom, bathed the boy in hopes of identifying any familiar markings. So she's looking for any way to identify him as hers. But
that still doesn't justify.
That is a step too far.
Okay, look, if you know that your son has a birthmark or something,
look in that general
look
area.
in just that area.
I mean,
don't have to sit there and make the kid go take a bath and you go give him that bath.
So keep in mind, this boy has been traveling with William.
Yeah.
William was arrested in Mississippi. So this boy is just with the local authorities.
Yeah.
So, at the time, they're just like, whatever.
Okay.
So she just goes and she gives
Took
the
in
boy
that
a
motherly
bath.
instinct
Yeah.
or whatever. Okay.
But she identified some moles and scars on his back that were similar to Bobby's. And she instantly declared that the boy was her son. And a judge agreed on that. And then, according to some newspapers at the time, Bobby didn't recognize either of his parents or his brother, Alonzo, later on when they met back up in Louisiana.
Yeah.
but he thought that it was a result of trauma from the kidnapping. After the judge agrees that, yeah, this is your son, sure. Bobby was brought home by the Dunbars in mid 1913. He rode in on a fire truck through the town's parade that they threw in his honor.
Aw.
The missing boy was home, his kidnapper in jail awaiting trial, and they were going to celebrate, period.
Yeah.
So once the news of his arrival hit the papers in North Carolina, one lady reached out to the authorities and swore that the boy was not Bobby, but in fact her own son. And this lady's name was Julia Anderson. Do you remember her?
Oh.
Ooh. So
Hold on.
she ends up taking a train to Louisiana, and she publicly claims that the boy was Bruce Anderson. But she'd been traveling for a year, going to visit her own family, and hadn't seen him in that year.
Time out. Time out. A whole year to go see her
Yeah.
family
First off,
and didn't take her son?
so Bobby goes missing in 1912.
Yeah.
This is happening in the middle of 1913.
A whole year.
Without seeing your little, what I
You're-
guess now it would be 5-year-old son.
Yeah.
But she trusted, she trusted the guy that he was with.
Yeah.
And she also, now this is a little fun fact I didn't throw in here. She also had several other children.
Okay.
She is an unwed woman,
Yeah.
just going out to make her money so she can feed her babies.
Yeah.
But the problem was that once she was in front of him, she hesitated identifying him. And she kind of questioned herself on whether it was Bruce or whether it was the missing boy Bobby. And that was her downfall, ultimately. She ended up being criticized by the papers for not knowing her own son.
But
Not,
time out
I mean,
because so did the mom.
right,
The other
yes,
mom,
thanks.
she
Let's talk
didn't
about that.
even, yeah, she didn't even know
She
if
had
it
to
was
undress
Bobby.
the boy
Yeah.
and bathe him to decide whether it was her son or whatever. But she was a single, unwed mother, so the Dunbars just dismissed her. And she eventually pleaded for custody. And this was during a time when DNA tests didn't exist.
Yeah.
Of
Of
this
course.
is early 1900s. But she insisted that she knew with 100% certainty, eventually, that this was her son.
Yeah.
And she was not going to let that go. But the boy ended up living with the Dunbars through April of 1914. So this is another year when William Walter's kidnapping trial began. So Julia Anderson testified on his behalf, stating that she'd entrusted her son under his care, and Walters maintained his innocence the entire time. Julia was later denied custody of the boy, and Walters was sentenced to 2 years of hard labor for kidnapping. Only to later he was dismissed due to lack of evidence. So he
Of
didn't even
anything.
have to finish out his 2 years of hard labor. I couldn't pinpoint how long he actually did have to do this, but either way, he was arrested and he was sentenced to time. So the boy remained with the Dunbars and was raised as Bobby Dunbar for the remainder of his life. Later, at the age of 24, he requested to meet his kidnapper. And I found a news article on that as well.
Okay.
And he stated in that article that he could remember the abuse that he endured from William Walters, resulting in the scars on his back.
Time out.
Right? Okay.
Because
okay.
the mom recognized the scars.
Right.
So how did the scars show
Come
up
from the
with...
kidnapper later on down the road? I don't know. But the article itself says that he could remember how he got those scars. And I don't know if it's the exact, is it,
I have a bit of suspicion there.
Right.
I feel like the Dunbars might have been saying something to the kid.
He never actually met up with William Walters,
Okay.
though he did say that he wanted to. He wanted to see the guy again who abused him. I know. I roll. So Bobby got married, had kids, and lived happily telling his story to anyone that would listen in Louisiana until he died in 1966 at the age of 57.
Oh. A part of me also thinks for the fame. He showed up.
This was the most popular kidnapping story at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, this was everywhere. So, the story's not over.
Oh, there's more?
In 2004, so this is 90 years later, Bobby's granddaughter, Margaret Dunbar Cutright, was introduced to old family scrapbooks that included the newspaper clippings from her grandfather's kidnapping because it was very popularized at the time.
Yeah.
So, in search of definitive answers, and mostly out of curiosity of like her family tree, a DNA test was conducted by Margaret comparing her father, who was the man raised as Bobby Dunbar,
Yeah.
with a son of Bobby's brother, Alonzo, which would be like Bobby's nephew.
Yeah.
The result showed no biological relation.
Are you serious?
None. So, after nearly a century, this showed that the boy was, in fact, Bruce Anderson the entire time, proving William's innocence and Julia's sanity long after they'd already passed. Not only had the Dunbars actually kidnapped somebody else's boy in turn, but they stopped searching for their own because they thought that they'd found him already. The body of Bobby Dunbar, the real one,
Yeah.
was never located, and it still remains an unsolved mystery.
That is insane to me. What if during that time of the bath, he was like, "You are my son and you are to not say anything." You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, the little
the
bath
whole-
time is where she claims that she knew.
yeah.
She knew that was her son, and it couldn't be anybody else because they had similar markings. But I'm thinking, like, what, you see a freckle on his belly and you think that that means.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is just odd to me, and it's odd that part of me wants to think that maybe they were just kind of like settling. Like they'd been looking for Bobby for so long at this point,
Yeah. They were.
and they
Wasn't
get
it
the
a
news.
year or
They get the
so?
news. It was like 8 months.
Yeah.
They get the news that this man had been arrested and Bobby was found with him, and the authorities are the ones who call and say, "Hey, we found your son."
Yeah.
And they were probably just like, "You know what? Yeah,
This is
okay."
it.
They were
And
just glad
then,
to have him back and just were in that mindset and didn't want to believe that, okay, well, maybe this isn't what I think it is.
yeah.
I mean, what do you think happened to Bobby Dunbar?
So there were two speculations there. They were asleep,
Or they were fishing and they were busy and just not watching.
and then even if it was at night and everybody was asleep, do we think that Bobby just got up and wanted to wander around
I
or
mean,
got
I
taken?
don't want to do comparisons to my own kid,
Yeah.
but a 4-year old brave enough to unzip a tent or whatever, untie the whatever on the
Not
tent
whatever.
and go out into the darkness.
With absolutely no light, don't know where you are. That's a very low
It's a
chance.
low chance. Now, I looked more into Swayze Lake, and this is or was like a popular retreat at the time. They were not the only people there, um, and it was like a common pastime for them to go there. Like this is a place that the Dunbars went to often. They had money, and this was
Yeah.
more of a retreat than it was a camping site.
So I'm leaning more towards he was taken.
Part of me wonders. I would love to hear everybody's thoughts.
Absolutely. Like, let us know what you think happened.
What do you think happened to the real Bobby Dunbar? Everybody's got their own opinions. There is no straight set answers.
All
It's
right.
just a wild turn of
It
events.
was.
I'm excited for yours
I
though.
know, you better be, because there's a whole bunch into it. And let's just go ahead and get
Ma'am,
started.
I am buckled up and I am ready.
Okay, so we're going to get started on mine, and mine is the Circleville Letters in Circleville, Ohio.
Okay, I have to confess, I have heard about these before, but I've never done research into them. Um, so I can still confidently say that my reactions will be genuine, and I'm excited to hear all the details.
Were you able to read any of the letters?
No.
We'll get ready because I found almost all of them.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so we have Mary Gillespie, which is a school bus driver. She's going to be receiving most of these letters. And then there is Gordon Massey, which is the superintendent of the school, and supposedly they were having an affair. So the first letter was to Mary on March 1977, and it was an anonymous letter. It says, Miss Gillespie, stay away from Massey, don't lie. When questioned about meeting him, I know where you live, I've been observing your house, and know you have children. This is no joke. Please take it seriously. Everyone concerned has been notified. Everything will be over soon.
What does that mean? Okay, keep going.
Then we have the second letter also to Mary, which was in March 1977. It says, Lady, this is your last chance to report him. I know you are a pig and will prove it and shame you out of Ohio. A pig sneaks around and meets other women's husbands behind their back, only causes family, homes, and marriages to suffer. You are such a pig, and I will prove it. Why doesn't he come to your rescue, or has he too much to lose? When I put these letters up, and you'll see, like, there was some misspelling, and the way that the handwriting is very unique. So he said loose instead of lose.
Okay.
His wife, in which pigs like you take advantage of his $28,500 a year job and his kickbacks. How's your little girl? Will she grow up to be like you?
Sorry, not the 28,500. So it's got to be somebody who like is aware of the salary.
Yeah,
Hmm.
for real.
Okay.
The third letter was sent on April 1977, and it had a return address of the West Fall School superintendent, which is Gordon Massey. Ron, which is Mary's husband, began to receive letters as well. And it said, Mr. Gillespie, your wife is seeing Gordon Massey. You should catch them and unalive them both. He doesn't deserve to live. We know what kind of car you drive. We know where your kids go to school. And then August 19th of 1977, everything changed when Ron gets a call late one night. So enraged, he grabbed his gun and gets into his truck, and he was traveling at a high speed, lost control, went off the road, hit a tree, and was unalived. Now we meet Paul, which is Ron's brother-in-law, so Mary's brother. And he believed that Ron was murdered because the gun had been fired once and it was raised questioning if he had fired at the letter writer. The coroner ruled Ron's death an accident, but Paul kept pushing the sheriff to take a closer look. And Ron had twice the legal limit of alcohol in his blood, but many people said that Ron was not a heavy drinker. But the attack on Mary and Gordon didn't stop. Letters were sent out to local businesses, government offices, schools, and people who lived in the area. But Mary denied having an affair with Gordon, but after Ron's death began seeing each other, and the threats against her became more vicious.
No.
Yes, and it says, everyone knows what you've done. If you don't believe us, just make them mad and find out for yourself. So it's a kind of a jump from here. It went from 1977 to 1982. There's only so many letters that I could find, and so there's a jump in between the two times. So Mary got a letter on December of 1982 where it says, just tell your daughter we are going to post some signs about her next year at the bus stops, since you've caused this by what you've been doing to Miss Massey, and all knows it. How will you face her? But your type have no consequences, or you wouldn't have hurt Miss Massey behind her back. On February 7th of 1983, Mary was driving her empty school bus to pick up her kids when she saw a homemade sign on a fence. It talked about her 13-year-old daughter, so she pulled over to take the sign down and noticed it was rigged with twine and a box. There was a .25 caliber handgun inside. So Mary brought the box to the sheriff, and investigators realized it was a booby trap. So the Ohio's Bureau of Criminal Investigation uncovered the gun's serial number and traced it back to someone many knew, a co-worker of Paul who sold it to him.
So, how was it a booby trap?
The twine was wrapped around the trigger. So when it was ready to open the box and all that, and I'll post that picture as well.
If she'd opened it or if she'd moved
Took
it.
the sign something, it was like connected to the sign as well. So it was ready. It was pointing directly at where she would be standing. In 1983, sheriff's investigators went to talk to Karen Sue, which is Paul's ex-wife now, but they were together at this point
Okay.
before. She told investigators he was infuriated with Mary. She also said Paul was behind the letters because she found letters in the home, and investigators talked to Paul. So Paul told investigators his gun had been stolen weeks earlier. He agreed to do a handwriting test and a polygraph, but failed the polygraph and was arrested for the attempted murder of Mary.
Okay. So what proof does she have of these letters being found? Did she like provide any? Or
No,
did she? Okay.
she
So it's
didn't.
just hearsay.
It is.
Okay.
On October 24th of 1983, Paul went to trial, but he did not testify. He had witnesses say that he was home and had things to get done, and that's why he took off the day Mary found the trap. The letters didn't have anything to do with the case, but the judge let 39 of them in. They had BCI handwriting analysis compared the trap and letters, and they said it could have been Paul. And then a second expert, originally on the defense witness, agreed that it could have been Paul as well. So the box, which was an industrial sized chalk box, that was found at Paul's workplace as well. So the jury found Paul guilty and he received 7 to 25 years, which was the maximum sentence. But the letters didn't stop when he went to prison.
Oh my gosh.
So the sheriff couldn't say how Paul was able to write or send letters, but he was certain he was responsible. Paul's warden insisted it was impossible because they kept him in isolation and they did not allow him pen or paper. While he was in prison, he also received a letter. And it stated, "Now when are you going to believe you aren't getting out of there? I told you 2 years ago when we set them up, they stay set up. Don't listen at all. No one wants you out. No one. The joke is on you. Ha ha. Tell no one of this letter. I saw the paper. Great news, great. The sheriff loved it. Ha ha. Do you believe it now? Do you?"
I told you 2 years ago when we set them up, they stay set up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm confused. This was his first letter he's received?
Yes, it is. And Paul thinks his ex-wife is setting him up.
I think so too.
Well, listen to this part. So Karen, which is the ex-wife of Paul,
Right.
was the first to link Paul to the anonymous letters. She told the investigators she found some of the letters at home. It was also said she tried to piece together a letter and it spelt out the name Gillespie, but didn't keep the letter. She just tossed it. So there was another bus driver who 20 minutes before Mary found the trap drove the same route and noticed something. She saw a man large with sandy hair, and I've seen a picture of Paul and we'll put it up, but Paul is not that large and he has dark hair. Standing next to an El Camino. The man turned away from her and acted like he was going to the bathroom. Karen's brother had an El Camino as well. So, 10 years later, Unsolved Mysteries caught attention of the Circleville Letters, and in December of 1993, before filming the show, they received a postcard with an anonymous threat. "Forget Circleville, Ohio. If you come to Ohio, you El Sickos will pay," the Circleville writer. But the crew still went to Ohio, and Paul, who was recently released from prison on parole, agreed to talk. But Karen was not happy with the crew coming and did not want to participate. So she sat in her car taking photos of everyone going in and out for interviews. 48 Hours even tried to reach out for an interview, but she did not respond. And in 1994, almost 20 years later, the letters stopped abruptly when Paul was released from prison. Okay, so now we're going to get into Paul and Karen's son, Mark, because he has a little bit to play, but not a lot in it.
Okay.
He was caught in the middle between his mother and father, and he never once visited his father in prison. And Paul kept his suspicions about his son to himself, but it was said he suspects that the thief was his own son, and everything destroyed Mark with the divorce and letters.
It's like the thief of the gun?
Yes.
Oh.
And so when I was reading that and continued to look, I checked out how old he was. So in 1977, he was 14 years old. And in 1983, when the booby trap was found, he was 20.
So he would have been able to drive and
He would have.
hypothetically, hearsay, go and set a booby trap.
Yes, and if Karen's brother has an El Camino, but I did look at pictures as well of Mark, and he has dark hair. So it doesn't match the sandy description that it is trying to say. But on September 11th of 2002, a man's body was found floating in a river, and it was 39-year-old Mark who had hurt himself, and Karen told police it was due to the years of suffering from depression from the letters, the divorce, and the accusations. So to this day, it is still unsolved. When I was researching this, my jaw dropped multiple times reading the letters, the little twist of trying to figure out who it was. Still nothing.
I mean, my theory is Karen, and maybe she had Mark, who was, 14 at the time that they started, write the letters for her. Or maybe they were in on it together because you said there were like grammatical errors
Yes,
and misspellings and stuff.
there was, and the way the handwriting is, and Paul passed the handwriting test, but supposedly, but he failed the polygraph. But in court, when the judge allowed some of the letters in, they had their handwriting analysis check it, and it's they said it could have been him.
But
So it's not 100%.
let's say Mark is living in the house with Paul. He has access to like written notes and stuff that Paul has done. You would be able to mimic, and I don't know. I just think it's a setup,
I do too.
personally.
I mean, especially if Paul received the letter in prison and said that 2 years ago. So why not talk to the police about that? Like, do you not remember what was happening? Do you not want to throw someone under the bus and you just wanted to go to prison for it? What's the deal?
I mean, he wants to protect his son. Why would police not look into anybody else surrounding him? Would it not be easy enough to do a handwriting test on Karen and Mark?
I agree.
That is a long time to be putting your effort and time into. Like, at that rate, it's not important anymore. It's not. Who cares? Who cares that a bus driver snagged the superintendent? Ugh.
Let it be.
Boo. That's not your drama. That's not your business to stick your nose
The
into.
husband and wife will find out, and then there you go, I guess.
I mean, that's on them. That's on them.
Okay, my friends, we have chased midnight.
We have found it, and we are ready to go to bed.
So make sure to check all of our socials for upcoming episodes and little behind the scenes things from the episodes.
Now, our next episode, we will be focused on the paranormal. So if you have any spooky stories of your own, feel free to email us at chasingmidnightpodcast@gmail.com. Or you can hop on over to our Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, anything. Send us a message and let us know your spookiest ghost stories. And they will be talked about on air.
We'll see you in the next episode.